Now, do you need to ask your question now? Are you leaving or now, or do you have time? Or
I can ask now, or let the field answer it, if that's okay. Again, President,
you will be brief, Representative, right?
I promise I will be brief, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for making the accommodation. I do have another event to get to tonight, today. President Wilson and Chancellors, thank you again for coming today. Again, I think I agree along with the Chairman that our number one goal is affordable, quality education in our public universities. That has to be our number one goal. I am concerned over the increase in fees, specifically how, with this proposed increase, it's going to be 25% over, close to 25% over a 2-year period. I can assure you that the residents in my district whose children are going have not received a 25% increase in their salaries over these last 2 years. Again, President Wilson, you alluded to the fact that the Times of London has ranked us 56, or ranked UMass 56, and that's certainly laudable, but also we are ranked in the top 50 of most expensive schools in the country. So at some point, I feel that while we're certainly striving to achieve quality, we're losing the battle with affordability. Part of that's our fault. Part of that's that we're not doing a good enough job at the legislature investing in higher education, and we need to do a better job of that. But you alluded to the fact that 645 positions have been eliminated, but also the faculty is receiving a 7% increase in their salaries over the next 3 years. What are we going to do to continue to make education affordable at our universities for our students?
Thank you. That is, in fact, the central question that we spend most of our time thinking about and trying to balance. And you're quite right. We are very aware of the fact that people have not had the increase in salaries that would be equal to the 7.5% raise that's proposed for this year in terms of our fees, or the, as you suggest, 2 years ago, 15% increase that was made. And that is precisely why we've done a 267% increase over the last few years in financial aid. Because while we haven't been able to keep the fees low, because, as you know, we've been coping with cuts in terms of the funding that's available to us, we have recognized the responsibility to make sure that any student that prepares themselves adequately can get the financial aid that they need. And so as the fees have gone up, well over 50%, I don't remember the exact number, someone else probably does here, but I think it's 57% of our students are on financial aid. Those 57% of the students, if they, according to the calculation, the federal government's calculation of need, if they're not able to pay that fee, in fact, we do pay that fee. And when we increase the fee increases, we in fact put 20 to 35% of that increased fee increase into financial aid just to address the needs of citizens who are finding it difficult to meet that need. And as I said, we meet 90% of that need, which is one of the highest rates of need. So in fact, it is true that the public universities in New England have historically not had the state support that, for instance, the University of California has had. And so we have had a bit of a different financial model than, say, the University of California has had in prior years of very low fees, because we haven't had that level of state support. We've had a different model, which is a financial aid model. And in the financial aid model, there's a calculation of student need, and then we try to meet that need. And that's why we've increased the financial aid by 267% to meet the needs of those students. So I think I can say with some confidence that any family in your district or the other districts who's would be unable to pay that, it's roughly an $800 fee increase this year, if they were unable to do that, in fact, that would show up in their financial aid calculation, and we would provide that financial aid. And we make that commitment, but a lot of other public universities don't make that same commitment, but we feel we have to, because unfortunately the financial model is different in New England than it is in other parts of the country. We've focused very hard on that.
Thank you, Mr. President.
We've also been... Can I just talk to all the chancellors? Take the Lowell campus, for example. Lowell campus has been cut in terms of state funding in the last 3 years, $24 million. If we were to take the state budget cuts next year and and say, okay, we'll give you we want the same amount of money to run the University of Massachusetts Lowell. The increase in tuition and fees would have been 14%. So, I mean, we want to be affordable. At the same time, if you get cut that drastically, and you want to remain at a top level university, unfortunately there are going to be fee increases. But I don't think any chancellor or president want to be in a position where fees increase. But if you look at the record of state investment, it has necessitated. The other point that I would make, if you factor in inflation and look at the cost for UMass education, it actually has not gone up. In fact, it stayed around the same if you factor in inflation. What has happened over a period of time, well, let's say since I graduated from Lowell, when I graduated from UMass Lowell, the state paid approximately 90% of what the cost was, or what the budget was. Today at Lowell, it's about 19 or 18%. But the cost hasn't gone up. What has shifted is the burden of paying for it. And that's in direct correlation to the investment being made by the state.
But
Thank you, Mr. Chancellor.
Can I have just one follow-up? One follow-up. I promise I'll be very, very brief. Again, Mr. Chancellor, thank you for pointing that out. But also, as you made the point that 25% of the fee increase is going to financial aid, I don't think anybody would say that, well, if I have to pay $800 more in fees, that I'm okay with getting an extra couple of $100 taken off in financial aid. What are we doing as far as the overall budget? Yeah, you know, with the budget, it's not easy. Everybody's facing cuts. Department of Mental Health is facing cuts. Department of Children and Families are facing cuts. How much have you cut your overall budgets in the last couple of years?
At the Lowell campus, we have laid off 85 people. We have cut our budget by $12 million over the last 3 years. We have not cut faculty because we have a 14-to-1 ratio of faculty to students, which is a very good ratio. It's one of the reasons why UMass Lowell now is nationally ranked in the top tier university, top 100 research universities according to U.S. News and World Report. We have made more investments in students, but we have shifted away from any expenditures that aren't directly related to students. So we have cut the budget pretty dramatically. But the fact is that UMass is being privatized over a period of time. Therefore, if we're going to maintain a high quality, we have to generate revenue. Now, I don't want to go on too long, but I can tell you that we generate revenue at the Lowell campus wherever we can. Our online program is a revenue producer. We gross $30 million. As we have to rely more on private funding, in private research dollars, we've continued to do that. But you can't get around the fact that when state investment goes like that, and you want to maintain, you know, there's some, it's interesting, some in public powerful positions in Massachusetts feel that UMass should be just good enough. I think all the chancellors and presidents reject that notion. We don't want to be just good enough. We want to be world class. And in order to do that, we have to make investments to maintain that quality. And we do make those investments. UMass Lowell's success rates of our students is going in this direction. The reason is because we're investing in the academics of the institution.
Thank you, Mr. Chancellor.
If I could just add just to that, because I can give you some very specific numbers here. I was just hustling around, and the number that we cut is $68 million in the last 3 years. That's the number. I could put that in a different way. 645 people are not working at UMass that have been working at UMass. That's tough for us to do because there's not a lot of other jobs for those 645 people out there when we put that in, so we don't want to make things worse. Our employees had furloughs, mandatory furloughs to the extent that we could offer those, except where prohibited by collective bargaining. We closed campuses. Here in Boston, I have twice downsized the Boston office, and in the last go-around, in fact, moved everything to central Massachusetts, where we have much cheaper space available to us than we had in Boston, and that was quite disruptive to a lot of other employees that didn't even have a car, that had walked to work in Boston, and then now they're having to drive out to central Massachusetts to go to work. And by doing that, we also moved people off the campuses, which was very unpopular, by the way, in each of those districts. But we did it in order to save money, and through those consolidations alone, we were able to eliminate $19 million every year over the last few years by those kind of consolidations where we brought payroll together. 10 years ago we had 5 payroll systems. We now have 1 payroll system. So there's been quite a lot of cutting that's been done. $68 million in the last 3 years, 645 positions.